Welcome to Shoreline Learning and Development video snapshots. These snapshot videos are designed to complement your normal learning material. My name is Brent Walker and the topic for this particular snapshot is Taeass502b Design and Develop Assessment Tools. There are 4 elements within this unit. Determine the focus of the assessment tool, design the assessment tool, develop the assessment tool, and review and trial the assessment tool. Element 1 was define the focus of the assessment tool. There's basically 5 things you need to be aware of. The assessment tools themselves, the context in which the assessment is going to take place, the benchmarks and competency standards that the student has to be competent with, organizational, legal and ethical requirements, and the contextualization guidelines. So the assessment tools, you need to be aware of the learning or teaching that's taken place, or the competency unit to be assessed, the target group, the context and conditions in which the candidate is going to sit the assessment, the tasks the candidate is asked to perform, an outline of the evidence to be collected, the assessment decision-making rules, recording and reporting requirements, and how validity and reliability are built into the tool. The second point was the context, which covers things like the environment, collecting evidence in a number of different situations, relationships between the competency standard and the evidence to support an RPL, who the assessor is and is he qualified, the relationship between competency standards and the candidate's work activities and or learning activities. The benchmarks or units of competency. This is the performance criteria or the criteria against which the candidate will be assessed. From a unit of competency, they come from the elements and performance criteria and range statement, etc. The standards may be contextualized to reflect the present environment. Number 4 was organizational, legal and ethical requirements. This covers things like the assessment policy and procedures, industrial relations, awards and enterprise agreements, licensing and legal ramifications of assessing, the reporting and recording systems, the requirements of training, assessment and validation. These are the AQTF standards if you're an RTO. HR policies, procedures and legal requirements. Contextualization relates to the relevant training package or accredited course contextualization guidelines. Under training.gov.au you can download a PDF of the unit of competency, and there are contextualization guidelines listed in that download. Element 2 was designing the assessment tool, and there's 4 steps. Select the assessment methods that support the collection of the defined evidence, taking into account the context and meeting the principles of assessments. Step 2 is enable the candidate to show their claim for recognition of current competency through the selected assessment methods. Consider different instruments for the assessment methods to allow options for evidence collection. And consider how the instruments will be administered. Now, I just made mention of assessment instruments. They're the nitty-gritty of your tools. The profiles of acceptable performance measures. They can be templates and proformas, specific questions or activities, evidence and observation checklists, checklists for the evaluation of work samples, recognition portfolios, and self-assessment materials. So element 3 was develop the assessment tool. This is where you need to develop specific instruments that address the evidence to be collected. These are the specific questions or the specific tasks the candidate has to fulfill. Define and document clear and specific procedures and instructions for both the assessor and the candidate. And consider assessment systems and procedures. Procedures and instructions may include instructions for the candidate, assessor, and how to use the tool, the resources that may be required, the guidance or rules for the decision-making process, guidance for reasonable adjustment, any relevant OH&S issues, and even access and equity. Assessment systems and procedures are the record and data management systems, recognition of current competency, recognition of prior learning and credit arrangements, assessor needs as in qualifications and whether they're current, appeals, grievances and complaints procedures, validation documentation, access and equity, and continuous improvement systems. Review and trial the assessment tool. Compare the tool against evaluation criteria. That is, A, the effectiveness and relevance to the competency standard. Is the tool appropriate to the method used? Is the tool appropriate for the target group and the context? Is the language literacy and numeracy appropriate to the target group? Part 2 is trial the tool to validate content. That means you give it to other experienced trainers and assessors. In the case of an RTO, to other RTOs to get their opinion. Step 3 is collect and document and analyze the feedback from the trial. Step 4 is obviously make amendments to your tools based on the feedback. And number 5 is format and file the finalized tool according to the policies and procedures. Well, I hope you found this snapshot on design and develop assessment tools helpful. If you're studying the TAE, your next subject is TAE Taeass502b Assess Competence, and can be found on the YouTube address shown. If you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to contact your trainer or your client services manager. The entire team at Shoreline Learning and Development are here to help you.